Which one? The uh artists and material making. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So before in Unity, you had to code how to create a material, how shiny or how rough, how uh how you how to make it opaque, whatever. Those are all code in Unity. And of course, artists, they have to learn about that pa. However, tayo, since we programmers, we must have some knowledge in it, right? Hence, we had to do that ourselves. Unlike now in Unreal, it is easy to code for the artists, and it's easy. They don't need our help in creating materials because it's really just nodes and everything. Unity kasi ngayon they have their own na ganun for materials.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Unity shader graph. Yes, that one. So before walang Unity shader graph. Before we had to code it. Uh if you've taken uh GrapProg, yun, you had to code it. I'm pretty sure at least most of you has taken GrapProg, right? So imagine doing that, pero it it was hell. But I had to do it, and it wasn't fun how it looks, how everything works. Unlike in Unreal you understand everything. Though you may have to learn what Unreal offers when it comes to materials, but the moment you know that, everything is a breeze. Okay, questions? None. Okay, let's carry on. Technically, you can be a one-man team when you work with Unreal Engine. So being the only developer in the team, you need to be a programmer, designer, artist at the same time. It is difficult and time consuming. Unreal is so powerful that you can build a complex game without writing a single line of code. So iba yung line, iba pa yung blueprint. Because blueprints, you don't really write code. You are just um, connecting things together. So this gave power to designers since they can take the role of implementing the game. So programmers are needed if the game demands fast performance and scalable systems. Usually designers do not take this into consideration. What does this mean? If we example, well, in Unity, example, a bullet hell game. If you have not created a bullet hell game, your first idea is to shoot bullets. You spawn it, and then when they're out of the screen or they hit something, you destroy it. That's the first idea of any person. The problem with that is instantiating and destroying items in Unity is is not good for the system. Why? It's like it has to process it. It has to process the spawning. It has to process the deletion. So what happens is, as programmers, we have to fix this. How? Instead of spawning it, you could actually just disable it or deactivate it until you have to quote unquote spawn it again. This way, the computer doesn't have the programmer, the game doesn't have to process the spawning. It is literally just deactivating it, and then kapag you wanna activate again, you place it in that position kung asan dapat sila, and then they just do their thing, right? With that, you actually save a lot of time, a lot of processing power, and your game would run smoother. And that is called the garbage collection. I'm sorry. Not garbage collection. Uh, what is that? Pooling. Object pooling. Sorry. Object pooling. Right. So that's Unity. Pero tayo yun. We are we are needed when we need to make things fast and scalable and have scalable systems. Questions? All right. Okay. So we can now go talk about Unreal Engine's blueprint. So this is an example, but this is a really ugly example. Kala ko pwede din mag-set active. Yeah, set active sa Unity. Yeah. Pwede yun. That's how you're able to activate, deactivate. Sa Unreal, I'll be talking about it. Yun nga, like spawning and destroying is really slow. Right. Mababagal siya. Um, Kaya nga, what we do is object pooling where we just activate, deactivate. So you have a class that handles how to do that. Where if I wanna like quote unquote spawn something, what it does is it will just activate whatever that object you look for is, and then it will set its location to that place, set its rotation, etc. So that's object pooling. Okay. So anyway, ugly example of Unreal Engine's blueprint, but uh medyo important kasi this is how things work. The white line here tells you how your code runs. Imagine your blueprint, right? It's from I sorry, in code C++, it's top to bottom. You're reading from top to bottom. Here it's like that, but we are following this white line. In this case, from event tick, we go to delay, we go to set, we go to print, and then we set actor transform. What are these lines? These are the lines where we are uh, manipulating data, right? Like in this case, this new var, I add 1, that will be the value for this var 0. So yun yung magiging value. Another one is ito. From statue, we're getting the actor transform. We are breaking its components to location, rotation, scale. We're using it for different parts. Like in here, the rotation, we're breaking it to its other components, which is the floats, pitch, yaw, roll, and then etc. etc. So it's really just following where the lines go. Walang line na pabalik unless you make your line all the way here and then going back somewhere. Sure. Pero walang line na pa-reverse. Alright. So Blueprint is a complete, robust, and visual gameplay scripting system. It is a intuitive node-based interface where it has OOP under the hood. So Blueprint is powerful enough for non-programmers to build a complex game. So, sige, I'll go into this. Blueprint has access to most of the underlying C++ code. This means Blueprint has as much power as coding. All right, let me go talk about this part. So, intuitive node-based interface. You see things like, I don't have it here, but you don't really feel it, but there's some OP in what you're doing, like how you override your functions, um, how you are able to create child actors, or how you're able to create child actor components, mga ganun. It has OP under the hood. It may seem like you're not doing OP, but you are actually doing it. So Blueprint is powerful enough for non-programmers to build a complex game. So Blueprint has lots of functions, and those functions are quite useful, and whatever you need, most probably andun na. They're able to create that function already in Blueprint, right? If not, you can always go back to the basics. If you have to move it in a certain way, you have like set actor location, mga ganun. You have to rotate in some way. You can go back to the most basic, which is like set actor rotation. So may mga ganun. So Blueprint has access to most of the underlying C++ code. Technically, when you're doing Blueprint, you are actually doing a C++ code because everything in Blueprint is actually C++. Hence, it has as much power as coding. So Blueprint is still similar to coding. You have functions, objects, variables. So may magano pa rin. So kind of iffy with complex algorithms like procedural generation, complex mathematical expressions, AI behavior, etc. Bakit? The moment you have complex functions or complex AI, you have lines going everywhere. Hence, medyo iffy. Because if it gets too complex, high chance you're not going to be able to understand it if you like drop it off like a month or so. High chance, man, mo, huh? Ano nga pala ginagawa nito? Because it could get really messy. You could have so much lines from different um, notes. Okay? Questions so far? None, none? Okay. So I went through Passport Hell and we didn't even need to code. Programmers have their own role in Unreal Engine workflow. Like I said, we are not there to code mechanics, mostly si designer na gumagawa nun. What we're here for is to optimize, to create systems and tools. So jumping right to coding is counterproductive. Unreal has very steep learning curve. The best way to learn is to how designers would learn it. What does this mean? When we say coding is counterproductive, we mean C++. You have yet to see it, but C++ is very confusing. Or at least the C++ of Unreal is quite confusing, right? So the best way talaga is to learn from the blueprints muna. Understand how things work. Understand what functions you use, how you spawn things, right? Through blueprint. When you learn that, you are able to transition to C++ faster. Okay? So ayun nga, like here, Unreal C++ API is vast. Since blueprints are equivalent to C++ code, we can familiarize ourselves with the API. If you try searching C++ API, we can do that ourselves. Unreal C++. You can go through here and look at this. Okay, it's kind of messy, right? But that doesn't end there. Let's go. Oh no, I don't want containers. Let's go gameplay architecture. Like new functions. Okay, you have all of this, and at first it nakakangalo lang to. It's very confusing. Look at all. There's not even enough pictures for this. You wouldn't even understand. C++ harder to go to at the start. Kaya better you familiarize yourselves with the blueprint muna. Right? So, parutan, bakit po backend language yung copy ka sa front end? C++ versus C Sharp. Technically, C++ is closer to yung actual code ni ano ng computers compared to C Sharp. C Sharp is actually just like C++ under the hood. Parang ganun. Except it is much easy. It is much, say, what's the word? Easier, user friendly. It is much user friendly, C Sharp. They're both kind of working on the same thing. It's just that C Sharp is more friendly. C++, it's more, you can have more control actually with C++. Unlike C sharp, C++, you're able to control what you want to work with and all. Though it is slower to compile, but how things work. Ayun. Like C++ builds engines, C sharps can make apps frameworks. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah. Um, ayun nga, C sharp, I mean, there are some things kasi that are built on the language. C sharp. C sharp is built with .NET. .NET, that's for mga apps nga and frameworks, right? But C++, C++ is Windows. C sharp is not. C sharp isn't C sharp also Windows lang? I don't think C sharp is an Apple kind of thing or Ubuntu. Um, pero ayun, some languages are built for certain things like C sharp is for .NET, C++ is old, hence most of the things are built under C++. But ayun nga. You could say that. You could say that. C++ sacrifice fluidity for performance. You could say that. Uh, it's given naman talaga that C++ is much faster. I think. Yeah, if I recall. But then again, it's not really used for everything. You have only languages used for certain things. C sharp is used for win Windows applications. Um, it's also used for anything .NET. Now .NET is all about um, not just websites but also programs. You get the case. C++ was not built for that. No, good questions though. Good questions. Okay, so let's go back. Unreal Engine has quirks. Here. Vast. Yep. Unreal Engine has quirks that you need to know. Better know them before you start with nitty-gritty code. This is true. Imagine if you in C++, if you name two components the same, you know what happens? Unreal Engine crashes. Not only that, Unreal Engine doesn't open anymore until you fix that code and and you um and you build it. Right? Just the simple things lang. The simple things lang at bigla lang nagka-crash na yung Unreal Engine mo. So it's really you really have to understand muna yung blueprints. I'd say it's much easier that way. Next, even though we'll work with blueprints at first, the course perspectives focus largely on programmers. So yes, it is the way of designers, but how we work with stuff as programmers. Like yung systems natin. Okay, so we'll learn more about Blueprint versus C++ later in the course. I really have to edit this. You're not gonna code. I won't let you code. C++. You have to code it. You'll do that na lang in GAMPRG1. Okay, honest they mean course as in IEMC. Sure, you're gonna code later on. Not in GAMPRG1. So do we discard blueprints once we start coding? No. You will learn that Blueprint and C++ work together. You can't just have C++. You can't just have Blueprint. Both have their own pros and cons that eventually making them coding both together is the way. Okay? Questions? Clarification? Sige. Let's carry on. So gameplay framework. This one is for you to understand how things work. You don't have to fully memorize it, but you will always be seeing this. So the gameplay workflow key components. You have actors, components, controllers, game mode, game state, player state, map. Actors. We have actor under actor you have pawn and characters. Controllers you have player controller, AI controller. Right. Simple enough. These are most of the these are the key components. You'll be mostly working with actors, components, controllers, game mode, and map. Player state, game state, we'll talk about it, but this is more of online. Online creating an online game. So actor. Actor is the base class for objects that can be placed in the world. So siya yung pinaka-base. Everything is made out of an actor, technically. So this can be a complex object or just a prop that does nothing. So actor can contain data and behavior. It has its own blueprint. So again, it can contain it. You can choose not to have any data at all. Pwede rin. So it's really up to you. Actors can be spawned and destroyed runtime. Actors can be inherited to introduce new behavior or simply modify data. So just like in creating classes, it's like the same thing. You can create a child that can inherit uh, the parents' functions and data, right? So actor serves as a container to components, and actors can be ticked. So when you mean container to components, you're able to add components to an actor. Hence, they contain it. We'll talk about components later. So actors can be ticked, meaning it can do something every frame. Just like your game object, it's almost the same thing. A game object can contain components. Game objects can be ticked, so every tick something would happen. Every frame something would happen. Same banana. Data meaning variable. Yes, data meaning variable. You can have variables in your actor, variables and functions, hence data and properties, and behavior. Functions, yes. Behavior is function. Mm-hmm. Okay. Pawn, remember, pawn is a child of actor. It inherits directly from actor. What makes it different is it is an agent. Agent. So it can be possessed by a player or an AI through a controller. So meaning the pawn, it can be controlled using controller. Unlike actor, actor cannot be controlled. An actor is just there, can serve as a uh, just have properties functions. You could choose not to, but you cannot control it. You cannot be controlled by a player or an AI. Unlike pawn, pawn can be possessed. All right, that's the word, possessed. So a controller can possess a pawn. Right, possess means the pawn is currently accepting events from a controller. Yeah. So pawn is not limited to humanoid objects. So the pawn can actually be a tank, can actually be a car, a motorcycle. It can be a moving sphere. As simple as that. It can be anything. So it is not limited to just humanoid objects. So players assigned to a single pawn on the start of the game. And that is, it's a one-to-one relationship. So a controller, player is a controller. Hence, it is assigned to a single pawn. So this controller is possessing a pawn, and it's a one-to-one thing. It cannot control other pawns. It is only controlling one pawn. So in games like Candy Crush, the player-controlled pawn is unclear. You don't really see it, right? You don't see who is the player in Candy Crush, right? It's not there. It's like the whole game. Parang ganun, diba? So there's no real or visual object that you can control to play the game. So this is one of the quirks of Unreal Engine. Okay, questions here? So all you have to know, pawn can be possessed by a controller. So that controller can either be a player or an AI. And another is it is not limited to humanoid objects. How would you code that then? Controller, screen, menu. The controller, how would you code it is it handles the inputs of the player. So it is not seen, it's not really the screen itself. Okay. It just controls what it can do. Like when the player touches the screen, how does the controller handles what does it mean? Where is it touching? What did it do? So that controller handles that. Right. So they could also have controls on what if they press the okay, wait. Not UI. I wouldn't say controller handles the UI. That's a whole different thing. You have widgets for that. So mostly player inputs. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about controllers here. You will see what I mean. Questions here? Any other more questions? Okay. So, character. Character is a special type of pawn. It inherits directly from pawn. If you if your game deals with 3D humanoids, use this. Right? Kaya um this is stated here. Pawn is not limited to humanoid objects because character only uses humanoid objects. It will automatically have a skeletal mesh. You could use it. I mean, you can choose not to use the humanoid, and instead use its character movement. Sure, but ayun nga, it is character mostly it's just for 3D humanoid objects. If you so yun nga, if you need a humanoid object, use character. If not, you could choose to use pawn depending on what you plan to do with it. Kasi there's a chance that you might need some components from a character, like character movement. But you will eventually learn about that later on. Okay? So character, pawn. Galing siya sa pawn, used for humanoids. 3D humanoid objects. Okay? Controller. Here, it is a non-physical actor. So remember what I said, everything is an actor. This controller is an actor. But it is responsible for directing a pawn. So it can be either an AI controller or player controller. So kapag player controller, this is where you try to get input from the player. Kapag AI controller, it has its own um, functions. It doesn't try to get input from the player. It handles its own things. Kaya AI lang. So player controller is used for humans, AI controller is for AI, right? Given the so inherit from these controllers to introduce custom behavior. So controllers take control of the pawn through possess. So a controller can possess and unpossess. If it possesses, it is now controlling that pawn or character. If it unpossesses, mawawala yung control niya sa pawn na yun. So it receives input events. There is a one-to-one relationship between controllers and pawns. A controller cannot have two different pawns. A pawns cannot be controlled by two different controllers. It is a one-to-one. Questions? So for John, it's like real-time strategy. Your pawn is an invisible commander or yung camera. So if you play hold on. I'm thinking of old games. If you play, oh my god, StarCraft, yes, yeah, and StarCraft 2, you don't really have a pawn, right? You don't see it. Pero technically siya yung camera. Red Alert, yes, I was thinking about Red Alert, but you know, you guys are young, maybe it doesn't strike uh strike you. I was thinking of some history game, but I forgot. But anyway, yung Archon mode where two players can control the same army. Yes, pwede yun. How does it code? Um, right, see, technically, controller is controlling that camera, quote unquote, the pawn. And the pawn is able, since it handles the inputs, right? Let's say I select a unit. Yung pawn na yun has an array, maybe, na kung ano yung mga units na currently nakaselect or kinokontrol. So that's the idea. So since ito yung kinokontrol niya, if I click somewhere, lahat ng nasa control na yun, gagalaw na yun. So the controller is not controlling those units. The controller, what the controller did was it directed those units to do this instead. So parang they're all controlled by AI controller. What input I mean who tells them what to do? It's the pawn. The pawn that the player is controlling. So kung dalawa naman yung nakokontrol mong army, I mean two players control the same army, same idea. It's just that they can select those units. So now that means ito yung control niya na units, and then you can tell him, the pawn tells them what to do. Ayun. So yun yung idea ko when it comes to games like RTS games. Okay? Ito hindi tayo abot ng coding. O sige, tingnan natin. Game mode defines the rules of the game. So dito mo nilalagay how the player is can enter the game, how it can be paused, how can you finish the game, what happens when you quit the game. So game mode handles all that. How does the player win? How does the player lose? Siya rin yun. So siya yung nag-handle ng mechanics ng game, whether it's a win or lose, or pause or quit. Right? So inherit from game mode base to introduce custom game rules. So do not inherit from game mode. This is used for FPS games. So iba yung tong dalawa na to. Game mode base, game mode. See, game mode, it is the class na used for FPS games. Game mode base is used to create custom game rules. So these are two different types of classes. So game mode is tied to a map. To change the game mode, you must change the map. So one-to-one na rin yun. A map can only have one game mode. But the game mode can be used in different types of maps. So it's more of like a one-to-many in the case of map to game mode. Ayun. So in a multiplayer environment, game mode only exists in the server. So all game runs on the server, including single player games, and just connecting locally. So yung idea kasi nito, you cannot have multiple game modes. If you have multiple game modes, you don't know who's controlling who when it comes to mechanics. So what happens is the server has the game mode. The clients don't have it. So what happens is if they're able to do something, the server checks it, the server then sends it to the client na, oh, ito nangyari. Which like, maybe we win or lose. Okay? Questions here? So again, game mode handles mechanics. That's the takeaway from this. Handles mechanics and uh kung paano mag-quit, paano mag-start. Ayan. Game state. Game state is for online games. For single player games, you don't need this. Well, what it does is it is the state of the game that is usually not stored on actors in the world. So this should not be specific to the individual player. Uh, Game state is contained in the game mode. So it is just a state of the game mode. I think anyone, yeah, ayun nga, game state exists on the server and all clients. So the state is where you're able to check on stuff or you need some value from the game mode. So this is it, game state. Yeah, this makes it easier for clients to replicate data from the server. Ayun. So good to know. You won't use it. Just know that it is used for multiplayer. Same thing with player state. It holds the shared data across all players. Player state holds this. If game state holds the shared data across all players, player state holds the state of the individual player connected to the server. So in the server, you have all the player states. You have all the player states of all the controllers or players in the game. Okay. Again, only used for multiplayer. So this is what it looks like. The player controller contains the HUD, the input, the player camera manager. If the one that joins the game mode is the player controller. And the player controller, AI controller, can possess and unpossess a pawn. Alright. So it's not the pawn that joins the game mode. No, it's the player controller. This is like is it lang, this is the player itself. Player controller. Okay. Questions? Clarification? Okay. So you will go through this naman eh. How the player controller has the HUD, the input. You'll go through that naman. But um what you'll find out is that it's the player controller that joins the game mode and that player controllers and AI controller possesses a pawn. So question, just a small review. Is a is a character a pawn? Yes or no? Naku. Is a character a pawn? Yes. So character possesses inherits from pawn. Right. But the question is a pawn a character? No, don't worry. No, it's okay to make mistakes. We learn from mistakes. So question is a pawn a character? No. Correct. Kasi character inherits from pawn. Pawn could be a character, but it is not always a character. It could be just a pawn lang itself. Okay. Is a is a pawn an actor? Yes? No? Yes. So pawn inherits from actor. Is a character an actor? Yes. Correct. So yes, character is an actor as well. But character does not inherit from act directly from actor. Nag-inherit siya sa pawn muna. Okay? So, ayan. So that is it for this. We can code a bit. I will show you what Unreal Engine looks like. Um, I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Let me just double check on our GAMPRG1. Today is 17. Okay, sige. We'll run through Unreal Engine for a bit. Enough, I think, to help you for run character. You can, if you haven't checked it yet, you can actually check yung ano, milestone 1. It tells you naman how to set up things. It tells you naman how to do it. But I guess to start it off, I'll walk you through muna how things work. Okay? So, let's open Unreal Engine. Epic. Hello, Epic. There. Bagal. Okay. While that's happening, questions so far? Clarification on anything? Okay. So, if none, let's go run through it. So, kung di pa kayo nakapag-download, again, 5.2.1. What it would look like is, it would look like this one. Itong part lang. Nakakita mo lang tong 5.4.4. So, if you want to select, click on the 5.4.4, lalabas yung mga ibang versions. And you should look for 5.2. So, wala siya because I have it here. But, ayun nga, hanapin mo si 5.2, click on it, install. Right? So, let's launch. Ayun. So, may mga nagawa na ako before. So, this one naka-record naman. So, in case you want to rewatch or may di ka na gets, may di kayo na gets, you can always rewatch. But, again, you can always ask questions, huh? Feel free to message me or the group chat. Okay, there's nothing wrong. So if I were to create a new project, click on the games. Ito lalabas yung um pwede templates. Right, sorry. Ito yung mga templates. So for now, for our endless runner, it is a third person. Okay, third person. Make sure starter content. Kayo na bahala kung scale. I'll say you just keep the desktop in maximum. Make sure blueprint Huwag kayo mag C++. Blueprint. I could name it demo project. And now it is creating. Okay. So it may look like this. Maybe wala to. Actually, hold on. Let me. Ayan. It would normally look like this. You have the game window, where the map is, outliner, which is just all the objects in the game. So you'll see if I click here, nakaselect to. And then you'll see here naman sa details, yung detail ng object na yun. So you'll see, iba-iba yung mga location, rotation, scales. There's more. So it really depends on what you clicked. Okay. To move around, I will hold right click and move my mouse to look around. And while holding right click, I can move forward backward using WASD, depending on where I'm looking at. Without right clicking, my WASD does not work. Maybe arrow does. Arrow works as, yeah. O, so kayo. Ako, mostly right click ako. Then if you want to zoom in or zoom out, quote unquote, you use your scroll wheel. Because technically I'm not actually zooming and zooming out. I'm moving the character forward, backward. Okay, what else? So far, yun yung mga usual na ginagamit ko. I hold right click to look around. Holding right click and WASD to move around. So you'll see I can move fairly correctly. Okay, so that's controls. Then you have this content drawer. Content drawer is where your content is. So it's called a drawer because the moment you click on the map, nagko-close siya. You can have it, you can dock it, dock in layout, and it will be here. Dito na siya. So kahit na I'm touching the map, clicking stuff, the content browser is still here. So that's what happens when you dock it. Okay, so content browser, this is where all the assets are. So in this case, the starter content, you see that there are lots of props, shapes, etc. So, ayan. This is me left clicking. You can change how it looks like. This one. Ano nga ba? There's a way to change it, but eh. No, di pala, di pala. Well, yeah, pwede naman to. List or columns. Ako, I would suggest tiles so I can see what I am working with. Like, in this case, the meshes, ayan, kinakita ko. If it was just list or columns, di naman masyado. So, kayo bahala. Whichever floats your boat, ayun. Okay? Now, let's create an actor. To create an actor, if I right-click on the content browser, ayan, daming lalabas. But, important lang itong mga basic. Create basic assets, blueprint class. So, when I click this, it's asking anong class gusto mo. So, you have actor, pawn, character, player controller. So, let's just create an actor. So, let's give it a name. A name, demo, actor. So, here's our demo actor. If I double click it, is what it will look like this. It will sometimes it will create a new window for you. But if you want, if I click and drag the tab, I can move it to here. So kayo, kung gusto nyo ibang window, okay lang. If not, you just click, you drag the tab and then place it beside third person map. So andito siya. Alright? And now it's a whole new thing-ish. So we have components. So imagine your Unity, you have a list of components, right? Yung transform, yung maybe static mesh, or maybe a rigid body, right? Same thing. Here's our components. But the thing is, we can choose the hierarchy of it. So let's say I choose static sphere. Ayan, may sphere tayo. Or maybe let's add also a cube. Right. So I'm able to change the hierarchy, maybe change it to root, Or maybe just change both them attached both on the default scene root. So, ako, ay kayo bahala. Anong gusto nyo? Then, ano controls? Same thing like in the map. You have, if I hold right click here and move my mouse, I can look around. And then WASD tells me forward or backward, left, right, while holding right click. If not, you have WASD, you have the arrow keys again. What else? Scroll wheel to move the camera forward, backward. Okay, so this one's the well, mostly ito muna. Ito, it tells you how you want to manipulate the object. If you want to move it forward, backward, left, right. This is, ayan, manipulate by clicking on the object. At automatic select and translate. So this is by dragging the arrow. Ayan, it will just move to that direction, or the red one. Ayan. If I click on the between the right triangle, the right angle, sorry, it will move on those two axes, which is the up and right. So same thing in here. I can change the Y. I can change both axes by clicking on the right angle. Okay, so you'll notice, I'm not sure if you'll notice, so Unity and here, you'll notice that my X is pointing here. My Y is pointing here. My Z is pointing up. So that's how it is in Unreal. So Unity, I believe Z is the depth, right? X is ito, Y is up. So in Unreal, iba siya. Okay? So baka malito kayo. Iba si Unreal sa Unity. Okay? So if I press this naman, E to rotate, ayan, lalabas na yung pang rotation. So I can rotate it to however I want. Alright? And scale, you can, ayan, you can scale it depending on what axis are you clicking on. So if you want both the Y and Z axis, I click on the right, angle. Okay, or I could actually use QWER. This is W for the scale. This is E for the rotation. R for scale. All right, so WER. Okay, questions so far on the movement and creating an actor? None. Okay. So that's the movement. Again, components. This is our graphs. We'll go through that later. And this is the details. So if you can actually see the details for the rotation and location and the scale. Ayan. Gumagalaw siya. It also has what kind of static mesh and the element. The material you're using. Others, you'll learn about it. Okay. Now, this is your viewport. But let's go to the actual programming. So you have viewport, construction script, event graph. If I click on event graph, now this should look familiar based on that slide a while ago. You have the tick. Transparent lang siya because hindi siya ginagamit. Kaya, maganda siya. But the moment you have something here, like set actor, location, ayan, nawawala na siya. I mean, nawawala yung transparency. Okay? Questions here so far? So I think event graph natin. So how do we call functions? If I right click here or anywhere, may lalabas na search. This is where you're able to search what you need. I need to set the rotation, right? So let's talk about rotation. What do I have here? Make rotation, inverse transform rotation. Ayun, di ba? Dali lang. Sinesearch mo lang. So, ayan. Dito na yung mga set rotation. So, let's go set rotation. Ayan. So, we have set actor rotation. You have set relative rotation. Okay? So, simple as that. Right clicking. You can have spawn. Ayan, spawn actor. Diba? Dali lang. So, yan, no? This one being, that. Tapos, gumagawa na ng ano yung schema ay, So, parang ganun yun. Is blueprint or node-based programming. So, the nice thing about this, right? Because if you right click here, there's all actions for this blueprint. And you have context sensitive. This means everything I'm searching here can be used for this actor or this blueprint. But what if I want to only float? So depending on what you have, let's say set actor location. So set actor location. Depending on what I have, let's say itong bool. What if I only want some certain function from it? If you click and drag, it pulls out and shows the actions taking only boolean. In this case, we have like what else? I mean, what do you have here? Oh no, sorry, taking boolean. So this all takes boolean. There's a boolean in here. Ayan. Okay, how about this one? Actions taking a and hit result. So yun. So this is only specifically for hit result. Or how about itong actor? So this is only for functions that use actor. Like say actor. Okay. Ayan. Ayan. Automatic. Gumagawa siya. Cool, right? Paano to? New location. Paano gusto ko yung for each? You could actually split. If I right click on it, split struct pin. Ayan. It is broken down to its components, which is just 3 floats. And kung gusto ibalik, right click, recombine. Oh, diba? Same thing with sweep hit result. Ito, mahaba to. Split. Ayan. It has all these things. That hit result, itong hit result, it's a struct, right? Which holds different things, such as the location, the normal, the impact normal, start end. Ayan. So, meron siyang ganyan. So, I'll just put it back. Okay? So, that happens when you right click. Then you have variables and functions, macros, functions, variables, macros, special kind of function, not really used, but it's like, it kind of like shortcut stuff for you. So, parang ginawa mong, parang siyang function eh. Pero you'll notice na hindi siya. It's quite different. Okay? So, if you were face to face, I would have let you play around with this. Like I'd have you create a component, create a object that you want to place in the world. So example, ito yung mga components ko, the cube and the sphere. I can place it in the world by just dragging the actor, and it's now here. So you could have created anything, and it could simply just quote unquote spawn it by just dragging it. All right. So far, any questions on this event graph? No questions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Unreal Engine is fun. You just have to put some time in it, honestly. You have to just put some time in it, and it becomes fun. It might get confusing at times, but generally, it's fun. So, ah, one last thing, right? You can create function. You can create a function by just pressing this plus. Lalabas siya. We can actually create a function here as well called a custom event. So you have custom event, you have new function, and if you try to call it new function, ayan, this is your function. You could also try to call custom event, ayan. So they're the same. They look the same, right? So yun. I think one difference lang is itong custom event, you're not able to return anything. So it is just there. You can have some inputs, but wala siyang output of anything. Unlike here, new function, you could output things by this one, input output. So in case I wanna output like a boolean, ayan, gagawa siya agad ng return node. Ito na yung boolean. Yes. Ano yung ibang kulay? So these red ones, these are events, meaning they are the start of something. The blue one, like itong si new function, it is a event. You call this me calling an event, and now I can use it to call something. I mean to be called somewhere, like on begin play. Okay. So unlike the red ones they are the start. You'll notice. I'm not sure if this works. Maybe not. But you notice there is no white thing here, right? Wala siyang white here. Kasi sila yung pinaka-start. So, from here, ayan. Etong blue na to, lahat ng mga functions, it's blue. Kahit si spawn actor from class. Ayan, blue rin siya. Kasi they are functions that we are calling. So the blue ones cannot be a start at all. Okay. Purple is specifically for functions. So this one kasi, andito na yung start, andito rin yung end. And it's really just for this one. I mean, yeah, it's only for functions now. So in here kasi, ang special nito is you're able to have inputs, you're able to have outputs, you have a return node. Dito, wala kang ganun. Kahit nagawa ka ng custom event. Wala kang ganun. So you'll see, input lang meron. So I'm sure I can have some inputs here. I can change it. But wala kang output at all. Good question. So yeah, yun yung difference. Blue or functions are being called, red are events na parang siya yung start of something. Purple They are they're usually just for the start and end of of a function. Everything else inside would still be the same color, like si custom event. Ayan, blue pa rin. And you also have like set actor station. Ayan, blue pa rin siya. So, because we are calling these functions. Okay? So, that's the difference. So, what you saw a while ago, like here, because you eventually have variables here, right? Like, um, let's say it is health. You're able to choose what kind of variable type. Again, this is seen in the documentation naman. So you can click here. And dito lahat ng mga variable types. So you have actor, you have float, you have int, and you have float, sure, and float. But let's say an actor, like mm, a player or something, an actor, you can actually, it actually asks for one more thing, which is ito, object reference, class reference. Object reference, it's an instance of an object. Class reference, ito yung class. Ayan, ito yung mga class. Pero kapag, again, don't be pressured here. You will go through this naman. I'm just showing you lang ano yung difference. So object reference, you'll see that I'm not really able to, wala akong actual default value. Kasi wala. This is instance eh. It should have been created somewhere. Hence, wala. Because I have not instantiated. We haven't even started the game yet. Okay. So, questions, clarifications for that? Wala. Finally, maybe not finally, you can also create a character. Now, I'll show you difference pala. Si Pawn, again, what is Pawn? Pawn is an actor that can be possessed by a controller, right? You notice, meron siyang default sinute lang. But if you remember,
Sir, kasi
yes.
tamad na ako. Sorry. It's kind of a question, pero kasi I was just wondering kasi I think kanina sa slides you were saying na yung blueprint at yung coding go hand in hand.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
In that sense na napaisip lang ako, it's like, can you like just code? Could you just code in Unreal, period, and just like have assign variables through like code, like just have scripts and attach them, or yung kasi I was also thinking like eventually would we create like custom functions through codes to create like we code our own blueprints? Is that like what we're gonna do in GAMPRG too?
Two, yes. In GAMPRG 2,
So what
mm-hmm.
we code is we code like scripts that become blueprints, and then we still attach stuff
Uh-huh,
with
uh-huh.
like with the node
Yeah,
system. Okay, so
yeah,
there's
yeah.
we can't just, like, open up VS Code and just start coding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what happens is
Okay.
when you create a code, you still have to create a blueprint for it to assign some stuff. Because you might have some uh things in here that are can only be accessed by blueprint. What do I mean? For example, because for movement, I need a uh, I input action. I need an input action kasi in blueprint. And the thing is, I am not able to, in C++ code, I'm not able to look for that certain input action that I created. I have to,
Yung blueprints are like structures or like classes.
um,
They're still like objects. Like kanina you were saying blueprints is still kind of OOP. So
mhm.
I'm just still trying to. Kasi wala pa naman tayo sa GAMPRG 2, pero yung ina-imagine ko lang sa code, if we're still coding something or we're embedding variables or like static stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like functions within a blueprint, that's like basically creating a class.
Uh-huh.
And then because classes can be delegated and
Mm-hmm.
ganun, it's
Mm-hmm.
still a class. Parang ganun. So parang ganun, but is that how I should like kind of eh, mind canon, like head canon, or like think about
Yeah.
blueprints?
So blueprints are like a class nga. They hold whatever components that you have. These are not the actual objects. The actual objects are the ones in here. These are the instantiated objects. This is because this is the actual level. But all this here, ito yung class na binuo natin. So, like, kung gusto mo yung class ko may ano, dito lang, may some movement component. So, ayun, pwede ako lagay ng some movement like floating pawn, ayun. But these are not the objects itself. So yeah, you're correct. This is like the class where we have our variables, our functions, all the components we need, etc. etc. Okay? Sige. So, balik tayo. Pawn, this is what the pawn looks like. If I create a character, it's actually different. You now have a mesh and a capsule. Kasi nga, si character, ang plano nila is only, not only, sorry, you, if you want a humanoid actor, is where you have it. So you'll see you have some character movements already. You have the mesh, and then the collider of the player. So ayun, makita mo, you're able to put some characters. The mannequin. All right. So that is pawn and character. You'll notice character movement dito, 'di ba? Wala akong access dito na character movement. Kasi character movement is only specifically for character. It is specially designed for humanoids. You'll notice we have walkable, floor angle. You have walk speed. You have ano ba? Jump velocity, sure. Meron dito crouch pa nga eh. Crouch speed. Yeah, or half height. Ayan. Kasi this was made in mind of humanoid characters. Bakit humanoid characters? What was Unreal Engine made for? Unreal Tournament, where they are all humanoids. Hence, they have this. Okay? Okay? Medyo, I think, na-overload na kayo ng info. But, andito naman yung ano eh. The document kind of tells you on what to do. So, like ito, how to create a character. I showed you how to do it. And it just tells you how to set it up. Same thing, controller. Controller though, wait lang. Ito madugo. Madugo to single player controller. Pero, ang idea nun is itong si third person, blueprint third person. It will kind of look like this. Okay, madugo. It looks crazy, but it really is just you have to go through this once lang. And it tells you here naman eh on how to do it. Okay, so wag kayo masyado maano.
Question ulit, sir.
Yes.
Is it easy to port, like, kasi for Unity, like, we have friends naman, or like for me, or like even me, for like old projects, I just copy paste a lot of my old code into new projects because it's like it became boilerplate.
Yeah.
So how is it how do we like do we have to code like do that every time we do a new project, or how do we port over features that we've previously done, and then
I mean, well, where did you do the project? Was it Unreal?
No, no, yeah, for
Yeah.
Unreal, like let's say,
Mm.
so I'm gonna just do this, the movement assignment for this class, but then I'm also doing desk proc, and to do,
Okay, okay, okay.
and,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and instead, like, just for time saving, instead of redoing that whole diagram, can I just like is there a way to do that with
Yeah, yeah.
blueprints or like projects?
There's a proper way in doing that, I believe, is something like uh migrate. I'm trying to remember if, because if see Unity, you can create a Unity package, right? Dito kasi,
Yeah, and also
not really eh.
just
Ayan o, tinan mo.
so yun nga.
So it's kind of harder to migrate. Actually, technically, if you just copy paste the file from the Explorer, technically that should work. Kahit di copy
Oh, that's
paste
the
mo.
blueprint.
Yeah, this is the blueprint.
That would be BP. Okay, okay. Well, I'll
It's
test that.
view asset. So if you
Oh,
actually
okay,
check inside, it is a bunch of ewan.
weird.
Yep, yep, yep.
Opo. Okay. I mean, I'll test it naman, pero it's just yun nga, yung double dipping,
Yeah, yeah.
like learning Unreal kasi yung desktop biglang requirement is Unreal. So I was like, what the hell? Okay.
Ah. I see, I see, I see. Yeah, yeah. So you could try to
Sige po.
just copy lang yung code mo dito, literally the file, put it in the other side. It should work. If not, there's a thing called migrate, but it's kind of masakit sa ulo. You have to choose which one you want to migrate, and then when you click it, it'll tell you where is the folder, where's the content folder. So that's one
Okay,
way.
sir. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, clarification, anything else? Okay. Medyo matagal after all the information. I believe malulutang naka-ata kayo. Ito, you just have to follow. It tells you specifically naman. It's not it tells you how to set it up naman, especially itong si controller. Kasi medyo hassle tong i-set up. But it's just a one time thing lang itong part na to. And how to initialize, ayan, dito naman siya. Ayan, it even describes what it does. Okay, so you run through this. The first milestone is mostly just following this part, just setting up, getting to know how things work, how where to place stuff. Okay? So, wag kayo masyado ma pressure ng tong part na to. Kaya kaya niyo to. It really just following the instructions. And if you have any questions naman, you can always just message me or in the group chat. Okay. So regarding imposter, are we allowed late submissions? Okay. So again, for submissions, I allow you to go past naman the due date. What's important is this one. Any milestones after this will not be accepted. That's my rule. So you can go past this. You can go past this. Okay lang. Basta do not go past this. Okay? And do try to submit earlier because if lahat kayo nag-submit ng late, I mean, by the 22nd of 5 p.m., I won't be able to check everything. You might have some problems with the earlier milestones. And again, if you have a problem here, I cannot grade everything else. Okay, that's my rule. So, kailangan lahat ng previous milestones are working so that the following milestones can be graded. Okay? Another thing, please, kung magsasubmit kayo na milestones, just work with one folder. You don't have to create a new folder for each milestone. Maawa naman kayo sa repository niyo kasi uh, each for each project takes up quite a few megabytes rin. You might end up not having enough space at all. Okay? So just work with one folder lang for for midterms. Okay. So what it look like maybe I don't have here. So ito yung repository niyo, di ba? Magkaroon pa kayo ng isa pang folder na like endless runner. And then within that endless runner na folder, andun yung project niyo. Okay? So ganun lang yun. Magawa lang kayo ng folder for this project mismo. Questions? Clarification?
Kasi naguluhan ako dun. Like,
Ah,
are all these features cumulative? So, kasi yun nga, if we basically do up to milestone 5 sa isang bagsakan, how will you, like, kasi you'd be pushing, like, the one program, I'm
mm-hmm,
assuming, kasi it's one folder.
mm-hmm.
So, how
Uh,
would that affect yung milestone 1, 2, 3, and 4? Let's say I submitted
mm-hmm.
yung midterm ko sa milestone 5, na-implement ko milestone 1, 2, and 3, and 4, pero you're just gonna look at it na lang, ganun?
Hindi. Wait lang. Let me just try to form what you just said. Because let's say you did all milestones. Did I check it or would I have checked
Kasi
all of this? Hmm?
kung folder is one project.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
am I wrong na when I say ano, when you said ano, one
Basically one
folder,
folder. Mm-hmm.
every time I commit, it's gonna just override that
Uh-huh.
same
Yeah. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
these are cumulative. These are none of these
okay,
are affecting each other naman. So you don't have to
okay, so
worry about it.
iba't ibang.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So kaya nga just one folder lang because this one very different from this and later on. Mga ganun. So I'll just be looking lang at the requirements. Kasi dito naman yung requirements lang naman dito is like as long as it's moving and stuff. I think did I place it here? Di ko nilagay. I think wait. Sa dulo? No. Saan nga ba yun? I have placed that somewhere. Deliverables. Okay, nawawala. Okay. Basta I do check things here. Then I'd always give feedback naman kung may problem or I see na you're doing something na could potentially be bad in the future. And I'll always say it. I'll give that feedback naman. Alright? Weird. Wala pala akong checklist. But anyway. Anything else? Okay. So if there's nothing else, uh yeah, that's it lang for today. I will upload this video and post it naman sa recordings for you to watch. So in any case, you have any more questions or concerns, feel free to message me directly or kung gusto nyo sa group chat kasi malay mo, your other classmates has the same questions pero ayaw nila tanongin. So pwede na yun sa group chat. Okay? So yeah, that's it for today. You guys can go and enjoy your